Early this morning, we got some breaking news, a main event for UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi on August 3rd, Cory Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov, and I absolutely love this matchup. I already seen people crying online about it, and these people just never stop. These people never stop crying, and the thing is, I have people telling me, Joey, all you do is complain. This is a sick fight. This is a banger matchup. I absolutely love this fight. And now all of a sudden, you have people who aren't normally about meritocracy crying about UFC rankings and meritocracy. We're going to talk about that in this video, as well as an early prediction for the fight. But let's just talk about my reaction to this fight announcement. First off, it got announced at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And I guess that was for the Abu Dhabi market. But to be honest, I saw this coming. I think a lot of people saw this coming. We kind of talked about it and speculated. If it's not on the Saudi Arabia card, which after they announced the Saudi Arabia card and they didn't announce this fight, I knew, and a lot of people knew, okay, it's going to headline the UFC Fight Night Saudi Arabia. And this is a banger bantamweight matchup that was originally scheduled for August last year. I think August 5th of last year, if I'm not mistaken. And Umar Nurmagomedov hurt his shoulder, had to pull out of the fight. He got replaced with Rob Font. When it initially got announced back in 2023 for August 2023, a lot of people complained then too, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. And a lot of people try to call me out for hypocrisy. And, you know, we'll talk about that more in a second. But initial reaction, love the fight. Perfect main event for UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. I love that they're stacking these cards. You know, I know some people complain about, you know, some of these Muslim Russian fighters from the Caucasus fighting in Abu Dhabi. But at the end of the day, look, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia is paying the UFC a hefty site fee. And what that means is they're expecting a decent card. That is why UFC Saudi Arabia in March got canceled and then moved to June. And then look at the card we're getting in June now, which is, if you don't know, it's the Khamzat Chimaev Robert Whittaker card, which is stacked with incredible fights. Now in August, we're getting the first, I think this is the first, at least the first in a while, you're getting a fight night in Abu Dhabi rather than a typical pay-per-view. We're still getting the pay-per-view in October, but we're getting this fight night. And this is an incredible matchup. Absolutely love it. And I think it has a lot of implications in terms of the title in the bantamweight division. I know that sounds crazy. I know people are going to say, there's no way, you know, can Umar Nurmagomedov get a win, or not get a win, get a title shot with a win over Cory Sandhagen. I think the winner of this fight, I mean, the division is fluid. Obviously, there can be other fights that happen between now and then. I think the winner of this fight is right in line to fight the winner of Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili, which is speculated to take place later this year, whether it's September, whether it's, you know, it's probably not going to be October, maybe November, Madison Square Garden, whether it's one of those cards. I think the winner of Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov will most likely be in line to fight the winner of Merab versus O'Malley. And that's a banger fight. I mean, think about the buildup to a potential Sean O'Malley versus Umar Nurmagomedov. There'll be a lot of hype behind that because people say grappler versus striker. I mean, he'll have just beaten Merab in this hypothetical scenario. That'd be crazy. Would be absolute insanity. But this is a massive test for Umar. This is a massive test. And some of these guys, you know, and I talk about, you know, Cage Warriors and the UK guys. It happens also with the Dagestani guys. Not as often as Cage Warriors, in my opinion. But some of these guys get overhyped a bit. And, you know, a lot of people get behind them and they say, oh, future champ. And then sometimes they're just not that good. I don't think that's the case with Umar. I think Umar is very good. That doesn't mean he's going to get by Cory Sandhagen. But this is a steep test for him. Absolutely steep test. If you look at his resume right now, Bekzak Almahan, Hani Barcelos, Nate Maness, Brian Kelleher, Sergey Morozov. That's his UFC resume right there. I don't believe any of these guys were ranked. Maybe Hani Barcelos was ranked when he beat him. I don't even remember. But meanwhile, you have Cory Sandhagen, who's fought the who's who. You have Rob Font, Marlon Vera, Song Yadong, Piotr Yan, TJ Dillashaw. Not all those are wins. Frankie Edgar, Marlon Moraes, Aljamain Sterling. And it's just crazy. I mean, I love this. I love this type of fight where you take a guy who has a lot of hype behind him, who's looked super impressive but fighting subpar competition, or not subpar competition, but not great competition, and then you just throw him in with the Sharks, and we get to see how good they are. And people have called me out and say, Joey, you're hypocritical. You're always saying meritocracy. I love these types of fights. I didn't have a channel back when they announced Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev. If you don't remember or you weren't watching the sport, back in late 2019, Khamzat Chimaev was unranked, had not fought a ranked fighter, and they booked him against Leon Edwards, who was ranked like somewhere in the top 5. I want to say he was number 3. And then it got canceled in December and it got rebooked for January. Then it got canceled in January, got rebooked for March. And then ultimately it fell through again. So the UFC moved in a different, moved a different direction. But I love these types of fights, and you see them all the time. I mean, not all the time. You see them, I feel like, a couple times a year. Another example, Sean O'Malley was ranked outside the top 15. You throw him in the deep end against Petr Yan. He got a robbery win, but ultimately that pushed him towards a title shot, and he won the title against Aljamain Sterling. So I love these matchups where you take an established elite top 5 fighter and you book him against a guy who looks incredible, who looks like an elite of the elite for the division, but yet is unproven, because we really get to find out. We really get to find out how good they are. And I think, people are going to be saying there's not a lot to gain for Cory Sandhagen in this fight. I just don't think that's true. I think it's simply not true. And I've said this time and time again. There is something, and I think Cory Sandhagen has this mindset. He posted a video back when this fight was announced initially last year saying, I want to prove that I'm the best. And, people think he's really good. Umar's a really good fighter. I want to go out there and beat him and prove that I'm the best. And he has that mindset. So shout out to Cory Sandhagen for not trying to hide behind his ranking, which we're going to talk about more. But I love that mindset of, I'm going to go out there and beat this guy and end his hype. I'm going to end that hype train. I think there's so much to be gained there, rather than saying, I want to sit out and wait for a title shot, or I'm not fighting him. Look at his rankings. Look at his ranking. He's ranked behind me. I'm only moving up. I hate that mindset in general. And way too many fans, and I've seen way too many fans with this particular fight, get caught up on the rankings. And I just can't believe it, because I understand Cory Sandhagen's ranked number 2. I understand Umar Nurmagomedov. I believe he's ranked number 9. Let me actually look at the rankings real quick. I believe he's ranked number 9. Yeah, he's ranked number 9. I get that's a bit of a gap, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, and this has been my opinion for a long time, the rankings are meaningless. They're absolutely meaningless. We're going to talk about this more, but let me get to an early prediction. Guys, this is a tough fight to predict, because again, you have Umar Nurmagomedov, relatively untested, versus Cory Sandhagen, who has fought the who's who. Cory showed really good grappling in his last fight against Rob Font, but Rob Font's not known for his takedown defense. Umar Nurmagomedov has looked incredible, but the level of opposition isn't even close, doesn't hold a candle to Cory Sandhagen. So this is a tough fight to pick. I may change this pick. I got to watch some tape. I got to go over it. I feel like Umar can win, but right now, just the unprovenness is making me lean Cory Sandhagen. So for early prediction, I'm going to go Cory Sandhagen. Dynamic striking, unbelievable power in his knees and in his kicks. He's brutally KO'd a couple guys with those knees and kicks. Marlon Moraes and Frankie Edgar, which I know aren't known for the best chins. But then also, it seems like he's improved his grappling. I know he did get ragdolled by Aljamain Sterling, but I mean, that was how many years ago? That was 2020. So I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Umar Nurmagomedov. I think he can get through it. I think he can win this fight. But ultimately, for an early pick, just to get that out of the way, I'm going to go Cory Sandhagen. Once I dig into the fight, when we get closer, I may change to Umar, because I'm feeling like I've been a big believer in Umar Nurmagomedov. I've been a real big believer in Umar Nurmagomedov. And I was a real big believer in Islam Makhachev as well. And look what he did. People were saying, he's fighting these unranked guys and he's fighting guys that are lesser competition. Look what happened when he got to Charles Oliveira. Look what happened when he fought top competition. He went out there and beat him with ease, relative ease. So you know what? Actually, I'm going to say early prediction Umar Nurmagomedov. Maybe I'll flip back to Cory Sandhagen. I'm going to say early prediction Umar Nurmagomedov. Now let's get to the hypocrites, because I've seen so many people already online, and I know this isn't the entirety of the MMA community, but I've seen people complaining, rankings. How could they book this? Why would Cory Sandhagen take this? First off, Cory Sandhagen is a badass that deserves full credit for not hiding behind his number. I come from an era. If you guys don't know this, you maybe just been watching the sport for the last 5 years or whatever. And I'm not saying this in a condescending tone, but I come from an era. At one point, they didn't have rankings. They didn't have rankings at all. The rankings did not exist. And we just said, this guy looks really good. He's a top guy. Let's book him against this other top guy. It kind of makes sense. It didn't matter what a number next to your name was. It didn't matter at all. And I've said time and time again, the rankings are straight up meaningless. And I know I'm an advocate for meritocracy. And I know sometimes, and this is never my entire argument, ever. This isn't even really a part of my argument. This is just something I mention. Sometimes I'll say, oh, so-and-so's ranked and so-and-so's ranked. It kind of makes sense right now. That's the gist of any time I mention the rankings. The rankings are just developed for basically casuals to understand how quote-unquote good fighters are. It's a promotional tool. That's all it is. And the rankings as we have currently are completely flawed. They are meaningless. And if you don't think they're meaningless, let's go to the lightweight division. Number 9, Max Holloway. Number 9, Max Holloway. Guess who's number 3? Justin Gaethje. So in this world right now, today, what's today? May 6th, 2024. You know, I would say Max Holloway doesn't even deserve a fight with Justin Gaethje right now, even though he just brutally, well, I guess it wouldn't matter because he just brutally KO'd him, but you get my point. He doesn't deserve it. And I know he was unranked when he got that fight and he had 45 behind him, but either way, he just brutally KO'd Justin Gaethje. He's ranked 6 spots behind him, conveniently at the same spot Umar Nurmagomedov's currently ranked. Conveniently where Umar Nurmagomedov's ranked. And I know people are saying, well, how is Umar number 9? He doesn't deserve that ranking. He's never beaten anyone in the top 15. You're supposed to rank it on how good you think a fighter is. Does anyone right now think Umar Nurmagomedov loses to Kyler Phillips, who's sitting at number 10, Dominic Cruz, who won't take a fight to save his life, at number 11, Jonathan Martinez at number 12, who's getting taken down and held down by Jose Aldo, Mario Batista, now that one would actually be interesting, Ricky Simone or Pedro Munoz? The only one that I think even remotely has a chance is Mario Batista, who I'm very, very high on. So to say, oh, he doesn't deserve number 9 because of who he's beaten, no, they're supposed to rank these fighters on how good they perceive them to be based on their performances. And on top of all that, again, the rankings are meaningless because guess who developed the rankings? Guess who's voting on the rankings? I'll put it on the screen. How were rankings determined? Rankings were generated by a voting panel made up of media members. I'm going to skip the rest of this, but let's read the bottom fine print. The rankings panel is comprised of media members from the following outlets: MMA Oddsbreaker, CFMU 93.3, I can't even read that, Fight News, Fight Network, Cherokee Scout, Burbank Leader, MMA Weekly. Where's Blood and Sweat at? Blood and Sweat at the bottom, Inside Fighting Radio. Who are these people? Who are these people? I don't know who they are. So why, at least in my mind, am I going to make fights and say, and justify meritocracy based off of some numbers Blood and Sweat decided a number was deserved next to a certain fighter's name? It makes no sense. The only time I care about meritocracy in this sport is a person on a long winning streak against elite level opposition who has earned their title shot. That's the only time I care because the rankings are straight up meaningless. So I love Umar Nurmagomedov versus Cory Sandhagen. I think it's a banger fight, and I think the people complaining about it only care because it's a Dagestani fighter. That's it. That's the only reason. That's literally it. I'm convinced that's the only reason. They don't care about meritocracy any other time. They're not claiming meritocracy when Rob's getting walked over for a title shot. They don't care about it then. They don't care when Bilal's getting walked over for a title shot. They don't care when, there's so many examples. It's just, I could go with all day about how, it didn't matter meritocracy then. What about the welterweight division? When Colby's getting a title shot, everyone loved it then, and they put on that piss poor performance. So at the end of the day, meritocracy only really matters when you are looking to get a title shot, at least in my opinion, because the rankings are straight up meaningless. People only care because it's a Dagestani fighter. They're like, oh, Dagestani privilege. But the opposite, there's no way. There's no way that the opposite wouldn't be being said. Imagine he fights another guy. They'll be like, oh, he's getting favorable matchups. Oh, he's fighting unranked bums. It's a double-edged sword. No matter what, it would never be good enough. But ultimately, I think the UFC made the right decision because right now you look at the rankings. Cory Sandhagen beat Rob Font in his last fight, okay? He beat Rob Font. A win over Umar Nurmagomedov, in my opinion, is more meaningful than a win over Rob Font, who's sitting at number 8. A win over Umar Nurmagomedov is more meaningful than Song Yadong, in my opinion. It earns Cory Sandhagen more hype and more credibility going into a potential title shot. And people, to go back to the hypocrisy, people are acting as if Cory Sandhagen's earned a title shot. In what universe? Is he next up after Merab and most deserving? For sure. But to act like a 3-fight win streak against Rob Font, Marlon Vera, and Song Yadong is some, a crazy feat that is just undoubtedly deserved a title shot where he can just sit out and wait for a title shot is insanity. It's ludicrous. Again, he's up next after Merab, but why not see how good Umar is against Cory Sandhagen, who we know is the elite of the elite? And if Cory Sandhagen beats Umar, okay, now he put Umar on his resume, ended the hype train of Umar, beat a guy that a lot of people thought was very, very good. Now he's on a 4-fight winning streak, and now there's even more hype going into a Cory Sandhagen title fight against the winner of O'Malley versus Merab. So I love this matchup. This is all to say I love this matchup. I don't want to hear any complaints. I don't want to hear, oh, Umar doesn't deserve Cory Sandhagen. Looking at the rankings right now, even above Umar, Umar dominates Rob Font. Umar probably beats Song Yadong, okay? I'm not going to say he dominates Song Yadong. Umar definitely beats Devison, I think. That'd be a banger matchup, too. Umar beats Henry Cejudo. Umar easily destroys Marlon Vera. Then we get into the rest of the matchups where I think he may lose those matchups. Petr Yan, Cory Sandhagen, Merab Dvalishvili. So let's not sit here and live in a pretend world where he's not good enough to compete with these guys. You know, maybe he gets brutally exposed. But right now, there's no information pointing in that direction. You know, people are going to say, oh, we got clipped up by Azamat. Or Azat, I think is his name, actually. Azat Maxim. I think, hold on, let me actually check. Am I saying his name? Bekzak Maxim. I'm an idiot. I'm thinking of somebody else. Bekzak Almahan. I'm pronouncing the wrong name. Oh, he got clipped by Bekzak. Oh, no. Oh, no. I think I was thinking of a flyweight. Yeah, I think I was doing tape study on a flyweight, and I think that's who I was thinking of, Azat Maxim, who I think lost to Charles Johnson, who's fighting on this Saturday's card. So that's where I'm getting that name from. But to act like, oh, he got clipped by one shot. Remember people were saying that about Arman Sarukian when he got clipped by Joaquim Silva? Oh, he's not good. Look at him now. He just beat Charles Oliveira. So either way, I love this matchup. Can't wait for UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. The people crying about rankings are complete hypocrites. They don't care about meritocracy any other time. And their argument to meritocracy makes absolutely no sense because the rankings are completely meaningless, compiled by Blood and Sweat Honolulu, Blood and Sweat 915, 6784, whatever that may mean. I love this matchup. UFC deserves a round of applause for putting it together. I can't wait to see Cory Sandhagen potentially end the hype train of Umar, or I can't wait to see Umar Nurmagomedov proven as an elite of the elite and a #1 contender in the bantamweight division, which is one of my favorite divisions to watch. Imagine O'Malley versus Nurmagomedov. Imagine Merab versus Nurmagomedov. I'm already fantasizing about those matchups. I love those fights. Absolutely love those matchups. Think about O'Malley versus Sandhagen. Think about Merab versus Sandhagen. Does Sandhagen get an opportunity to avenge his loss against Aljamain Sterling against his teammate and best friend Merab Dvalishvili? There's so many endless possibilities, and this was the right fight to make by the UFC. I applaud them very much. Can't wait for UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. The only thing I hate that it's so far away. But it's really not. It's really not. It's only 3 months, which is craziness. 3 months till August 2024. Where's the time going? I don't know. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Early prediction, I'm leaning slightly Umar. But I flipped and flopped back in this video, but I'm picking Umar Nurmagomedov. Early prediction. I'll have a full breakdown closer to the fight. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.